responding to denial is a real challenge because when you present scientific evidence to people who have rejected climate science, it's often either ineffective or even counterproductive. People can actually harden their beliefs in response to evidence that threatens their ideology. So the consequence of this is that the way to respond to climate science denial is not trying to change the mind of that small minority who are rusted on, who are fixed in their rejection of the science. Rather, we need to concentrate on the large majority of the population who aren't denying the science, who are open to scientific evidence, but are also vulnerable to being influenced by the misinformation that comes from this small group of denialists. So my answer to how do we respond to science denial is we need to inoculate the rest of the population against misinformation. And the way we inoculate, what I mean by that is we need to A, explain the science, but also B, and importantly, we need to explain how that science can be distorted. We need to explain the techniques and the fallacies that science denial uses to distort the science. Then when people encounter misinformation, they can see through the techniques and not be misled, not be influenced by the misinformation. What climate scientists and people who are trying to communicate the realities of climate change face is possibly the biggest, most well-funded misinformation campaign in human history. Millions, or adding up to hundreds of millions, possibly billions of dollars spent to confuse the public about human role in climate change. So what do we do about that? Now, I think that at a theoretical level, that inoculating people against misinformation, explaining the techniques of denial is the fundamental key to reducing the influence of misinformation. How do you practically implement that? I think that, public communication is important, and that's what a lot of the work I do is communicating climate science and communicating the techniques of denial directly to the public. But ultimately, I think that the key is education. I think that we need to educate the next generation of students both on climate science and explaining the human role in climate change, but also explaining the techniques of misinformation, giving them the critical thinking skills so that they're not misled by misinformation. So we just ran this course, Making Sense of Climate Science Denial, a massive open online course. So it's a course that people can just enroll for free online. And we use this approach of this using education to teach science, but also teach the techniques of denial. And we call this teaching approach misconception-based learning, teaching science by debunking myths about that science. And I think that if that teaching approach is applied in classrooms all around the world, then potentially we can inoculate the next generation of students against climate science denial.